There's a structure that's off of Malibu in the deep water that was available on Google Maps.
Was a structure.
And now it's blurred out.
Yep.
But it looked like there's openings in it. There's a top that's flat. It looks like
a base.
Looks like a base.
Looks like a base.
Yeah.
If
now it doesn't.
Now it just looks like blurry water.
Yeah, like why does it look different now? Like what's going on?
With a gun to my head, all the weird stuff is in the ocean. It's not from another planet.
Really?
Nah, I don't know. Who knows? But it makes a lot more sense that the stuff we're seeing, it's the best place to hide is just deep water.
So not from another planet originally? Like maybe originally, and that's where they make their base?
It's hard for me to square how to travel great distances. It's hard for me to square that. I know that we've got the Albuquerque drive and warp drive and all these theoretical things about compressing space-time and all of that. I get it. But it's hard for me to think that that's solvable. But what is interesting is maybe another species evolved alongside of us a long time ago and has been here a long time and said, you know what, let's go, this is where we go to avoid cataclysms and geological instability. Let's go underwater.
That's a weird one though, because like what kind of technology are you utilizing? How did you achieve that level of technological superiority and not completely control man? Because if I was an intelligent species that was capable of developing bases under the water, I'd be super concerned at all the different things that human beings are doing to ruin things. Like if we had chimps that all of a sudden had flamethrowers and they were lighting the jungle on fire, we'd probably take their flamethrowers.
So like we would turn off a nuclear reactor.
Yeah.
Right. So we talk about humans. If this theory is true that they evolved here, there were no humans. Humans are 300,000 years old. That's not. It would take whatever species a lot longer than that to evolve to this technological level. And we've seen the craft just zip into water with no displacement.
Right.
Where are they going? And there are unnamed whistleblowers, anonymous sources that say there's a base near the Bermuda Triangle. The Navy knows about it. They know not to get close. It moves around a little bit. I'm going to do an episode on it soon because it's just too good not to. Corroborated by another biologist who said he worked with the retrieval team, and yes, there's stuff. And what this base does is from raw materials creates craft to go on specific missions. So there's always the question, why is there a saucer? Why does it look like a pyramid? Why is it this? It's because they're custom built for a mission. And there's an AI and a species down there, and they say, all right, we're going to go survey Mount Hayes in Alaska. Super, super fascinating place. So we only need a scanning gear, some propulsion, and we just build it. It fits in an orb, send it out, does its thing, comes back, and then it gets broken down to its parts. And then another mission, build it. It's going to be a triangle. It's going to be this or that. Does its mission, comes back. To me, that makes good sense. A good way to do that, a good way to conserve resources, not have to go out and get stuff. I like the theory. It's a fun theory.
It's a fun theory, yeah. It's a fun theory also that if you were creating bases here, like say if they're coming from somewhere else and they want to visit us, it would be far more logical to develop some sort of a base with resources and where you could observe things and they can exist there completely undetected and then be able to go to wherever they're from back and forth, but when they're here on Earth they would be undetected.
Right.
And the ocean is literally 70-something% of the Earth's surface.
And we've mapped, I think, 2 or 3% of it.
Yeah. It'd be a good place to hide in plain sight.
That's what I would do. And to make things from raw materials, meaning like molecular level stuff, you're totally off grid. We don't need to strip mine. We got everything here.
Right. And if you have something that's a transmedium vehicle, so it doesn't displace the water, it works on some sort of a warp drive or something.
I think you have to get into interdimensionality then, and it gets a little wild. But if you're not displacing air or water, that means you're phasing through matter, which is theoretically doable because everything is mostly space.
Well, they said they've mapped things going under the water 500 knots.
Right, without making a splash.
Yeah, no ripples, no discernible waves.
Just Greg Louganis right in there, nothing.
500 knots under the water. The amount of energy you'd have to go through that much resistance of deep water 500 miles an hour, 500 knots.
Right. Look at how when they do missile tests from subs, how those things are just like, trying to get out of the water.
Yeah.
And these things just go bloop.
Well, that's the weird ones. But that would make you also think like maybe it is a hologram. Because if there are these transmedium things, but the thing is they're seeing them with radar.
Right, which means heat signature or mass.
Right.
Or electromagnetic displacement.
Or if it is some sort of photons, like some sort of a projection, would that not have some kind of a heat signature?
It would if it was ionized air. That would be plasma, so that was hot, if that's what it is. When they go into the water, we see them under the water for a second, and you don't see any refraction.
Right.
That kind of screws up the holographic projection theory a little bit, because there's no light refraction. So how did you do that? No, I'm asking you how do you do that. You've had physicists on here that I've seen go.
Well, the really crazy ones are the ones that the fighter pilots have seen, particularly Commander Fravor and the other people that were on that mission with him. So 2 separate jets. You have 4 people that are eyewitness to this thing, and then that there was something actually under the surface of the water, like an aircraft carrier, an enormous thing, that this Tic Tac is hovering above, and then that thing descends into the water. The Tic Tac turns towards them, jamming their signal, is hovering in space, and then shoots off at such an insane rate of speed that most of the things that we have on Earth would just disintegrate and fall apart just from the sheer pressure.
Yes.
Yeah, which is really fascinating. Because it's like, okay.
And they're the size of SUVs.
Right. So is it ours? And we somehow or another have some stuff that the mainstream drone manufacturers at the highest level aren't aware of yet? Is it ours? Is it like some crazy military stuff? Because if it's not, and it's coming from the ocean, like, what do you mean it's coming? What the fuck do you...
50 of them.
What do you mean? What do you mean 50 suburban-sized
So check this out.
UFOs are coming out of the ocean?
This is really funny. I've been working with this guy. We've been communicating on the signal for a long time. Actually, he was through Proton. He was emailing me stuff about Virginia, the UFO crash in Virginia. And but he was anonymous. One day, I was like, he's really knowledgeable. And he was sending me stuff that was really helpful. Like, you should track down this flight, 'cause if it happened, it was going out of this airport, go to this base. And I was like, finally one day, I was like, who are you? And how do you know what you know? He goes, I'm a retired United States Air Force colonel. I was like, oh. And he goes, and I'm also an experiencer. I had an experience back in 1980, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, so what happened to him?
He had a UFO encounter. It's in the movie towards the end. But anyway, he texted me yesterday, and he goes, James, I really want you to explain to me how the hell you orchestrated a UAP invasion right around the time your film's coming out. I was like, I'd really like to know how you did that. I was like, I know I couldn't.
Bro, do you know what kind of a budget you would have to have drones running in the sky all over? How many different cities are reporting it now? Like, what's the numbers?
It's exploding all over the place, and it's getting bigger. I've heard California. I've heard Europe now, bases in England, New York, New Jersey.
I've heard San Diego. I definitely... Wasn't there something in Ohio, right? Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. They had to shut that place down.
Yeah.
That's Ohio. So I've heard New Jersey. I think Florida, right? That was the one that Ryan Graves showed us a photo of. That was from Florida. So, like, who fucking... what's going on? Who fucking knows?
I was super busy. I had the release of the film going on, and so I was, like, trying to focus on that and getting everything lined up, and it was a huge push. And all these text messages from all around the world are pouring in, like, what the hell is going on with these drones? And I was like, it's probably something conventional. I'm not going to worry about it right now. I was trying to keep on focusing what I got at hand here. And then I started getting more information coming in, more information. Then a buddy of mine called me, and he actually went to Brazil with me a couple of years ago. And he's like, bro, I live here. I'm seeing these things in the sky. I've seen them 7 times now. They're the size of an SUV. And I was like, well, what do they look like? What do they behave like? He's like, well, they're making noise. I was like, oh, okay. Well, that quickly kind of eliminates, something non-conventional in terms of propulsion. But then I got reports of objects that didn't make any noise and that would go silent.
Say what kind of noise it was making?
Like a propellers drones would make, but loud, and they have a loiter, but they're big, and they have a loiter time of hours. The average drone, like I fly drones for my films, is like you're lucky to get 25 minutes. These things are there for hours.
Yeah, 5 hours at a time.
They go dark when they're approached by other objects. They're not getting picked up on FLIR at times. and then some of them have no noise. I've heard crescent-shaped, and then I heard about the ones that really got me because I contacted Christopher Mellon. I was like, Chris, what is going on, buddy? I really rely on him for good information. And he's like, I really don't know, man. It's a real shit show. And the U.S. government seems to be clueless right now. He goes, some of them are conventional, some of them are misidentified conventional craft, but there are other ones coming in off the ocean that are up to 50. The Coast Guard and police department are reporting that truly remain a mystery. And then you had Schumer at a press conference just like it was yesterday. And then he's like, we don't know what they are. We don't know what they are. And the guy goes, yeah, so it's a UAP. He goes, well, they're drones. He goes, well, you wrote the legislation. It's a UAP. It's unidentified anomalous phenomena. Why don't you just use UAP? I think they're using the word drone because UAP is almost too scary, like some kind of invasions happening.
That's what UAP is, unidentified anomalous
Yeah.
phenomenon?
Yeah. So
couldn't that be kind of anything? It doesn't even
Totally.
mean flying.
Well, that's the thing, because it used to be unidentified aerial. Well, it was
Right.
UFO, unidentified flying object. Then it was
Right.
UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon. But then they're coming out of the water,
Yeah,
right?
I feel like this is nonsense.
So they said anomalous.
Why don't they just keep using UFO?
Because people associate UFO with otherworldly, and they wanted to remove that baggage and make it a little less scary. That's my personal opinion.
I kind of get that, but also it's just an unidentified flying object. If we find out what it is, then it becomes an identified flying object. It doesn't necessarily mean it's alien.
True, but
Right? Like think of the
people
stealth
probably
bombers.
jumping out of their windows right now if they said UFOs are invading the East Coast. You remember World of Worlds back in,
Right, that's
right?
true.
People were like jumping
That's
out
true.
of their
That's a
windows.
good point. That's actually a very good point.
So I think they toned it down. I think they're using the word drone, even though they're unidentified, just because of the fear factor. I think the fear factor is real.
Yeah. I can't help but cringe when I hear that word.
Oh, sorry. I didn't, the fear element.
It's so funny.
Sorry.
It was too much of a part of my life.
Too close to home.
So when did they start? Like, when was it acknowledged that this was an issue that was reoccurring recently? Like, obviously there's always been something in the sky. People
Yeah.
have always seen things. Who knows what they are, whether or not they're, a lot of people see Starlink and they think it's
Yeah.
UFOs, right?
Yeah, of course.
But when did this drone thing that we're currently experiencing basically every day, when did it start?
A couple weeks ago. Maybe
Just a few weeks ago?
maybe a month ago. That's when I started really hearing about it. But
Jamie, is there like
I have
any sort of official answer to that?
I have something that
20th, 19th, something like that.
Is-
Mid-November.
Mid-November?
I have something that this is about an air base in Vandenberg Air Force Base in 2003, and this is not an anonymous, but this is about incursions over. Listen to this. I promised this individual that I met at Seoul conference. He's a witness. He's a military guy. My name is Jeffrey Nusatelli. I served 16 years in the United States Air Force as a technical sergeant and a military police officer. In October 2003, my coworkers and I witnessed a series of extraordinary UAP incursions at Vandenberg Air Force Base in California. The initial event is known as the Vandenberg Red Square, and it was first mentioned during the historic UAP hearing held in 2023. The case involved Boeing contractors who witnessed a huge red square-shaped object, roughly the size of a football field, hovering over a missile defense system. The object was silent and had no visible means of propulsion. The contractors watched in amazement as the massive object slowly drifted east and vanished over the hills. I retained official Air Force records of the event, including the blotter form entry, which includes the names and contact information of all the witnesses, and provided it to select members of Congress, AARO, and the FBI. AARO is a new UAP task force, all-domain anomalous resolution office. After the initial event, several other UAP incursions took place at Vandenberg. I was on duty during many of the encounters, and I investigated the incidents as they unfolded. Now remember, this is not anonymous reporting here. They include a football field-sized craft that terrified security guards as it silently hovered over a launch facility before flying off at an unbelievable rate of speed. A brightly illuminated silent object that landed on the base flight line before accelerating instantaneously and disappearing into space. A huge triangular-shaped craft larger than a C-130 that hovered 50 feet over a police officer before it drifted slowly over the base. A blue-white liquid orb, roughly the size of his house, that hovered over his house on the base. The objects made no sound and had zero obvious means of propulsion. And he says, my experiences with UAP were awe-inspiring, exciting, and terrifying. I don't know why UAP are flying over our bases and our neighborhoods, but I do know the UAP phenomenon is of the utmost importance to all of humanity. I currently have 5 other military witnesses to the Vandenberg incursions that are all willing to testify tomorrow under oath that these statements are true. We need answers to this mystery and better government transparency. Thank you for the opportunity to share my story. Former United States Air Force Technical Sergeant and witness, Jeff Nusatelli.
Whoa.
Crazy, right? I mean, we're talking
That's
objects the size of a football field?
That's bananas. And then they take off insanely fast, just like the Tic Tac.
Straight up into space.
So this was it. What was the exact date of this?
This was 2003. There was a number of incursions during that year, up all the way into 2005. And he has the names, and they submitted it to the new head of Aero.
That's interesting because that coincides with the Tic Tac.
And by the way, you already have very senior people in our government that have said it's here, whatever it is.
Right.
But these things could also be from under the water. These things could be something that is as natural to Earth as the little beasties were, right, when we first discovered them. Maybe they've been here all along. Right.
So the ocean is largely undiscovered. One of the things that people need to understand is that most of the exploration of the ocean is really essentially around the outside edges.
That's right.
It's around the shores,
Less than 10%. So,
which is nuts.
a buddy of mine
90% of the ocean.
That's right.
Like what?
We know more about the moon than the bottom of our own ocean.
These underwater crafts, like this enormous one that apparently was near this oil rig, how many of them have been? Has there been more than one of those videos?
So let me tell you what I can say from open source.
Okay.
And then I'll tell you about a conversation I had without attribution because I don't want to get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's, well, not say everybody, a lot of people are familiar with the Air Force's program called the Fast Walker program, which is a program that was started by the Air Force, among other things, was to detect UFOs. That's a fact. That was part of their mission, to detect a lot of things. Adversarial technology, but UFOs was one of them. It's called the Fast Walker program. There was some information that was released publicly about a similar program the Navy has. I can't talk about it because I don't have approval to talk about it. But obviously they're interested because they have equities underwater. They're interested in if there's anything underwater that can perform beyond anything we have. And I remember speaking to one individual who pulled me aside very privately, and he said, Lou, we were tracking this thing doing, and I won't say the exact speed, but hundreds and hundreds of knots underwater, and it was bigger than our own submarine. Right now, you know how big our submarines are, right? They're huge.
Yeah.
And I asked him, naively, I just kind of came out, well, what do you do when you encounter that? And he just said, very honestly, he said, we go around. Just like that, we go around.
Have there been interactions with these things?
We're not at liberty to discuss any details about that.
Right.
That's not for me to discuss.
So this thing is bigger than the sub, and they followed it for hundreds of miles.
Let me give you another great event that occurred. And I'll talk about this because it's not classified.
Okay.
The portions that might be, I don't know about, so I should be fine. There's an individual who I'm aware of who was a helo pilot, a helicopter pilot back in the late 90s in the Caribbean. And they were doing missile recovery. So what happened is that the Navy would test fire missiles, and then they kind of run out of fuel. They hit the water and they sink. At a predetermined time, they pop to the surface. We grab it with a helicopter, bring it back to shore, and we test it for telemetry and make sure that this cruise missile was doing what it was supposed to do. So they're out there in the helicopter, frogmen hanging down the line. You got the helo pilot, you got the crew chief, and the co-pilot looking all down at the bubble. And as they're about to grab this cruise missile out of the ocean, something huge and round, and what was described to me as black as a devil, starts to rise to the surface. The water begins to churn, very much like David Fravor's description of the Tic Tac incident and the roiling water. The frogman is so freaked out, he's literally trying to climb the line back up. He's like total panic at the disco, right? And the helicopter's like, do we do like an emergency ascent? What the hell's going on here? And right as this thing is about, and by the way, it's the size of a small island and round. Right as this thing is about to break the surface, it sucks the missile down and disappears.
Jesus
and that
Christ.
was, yeah. And Dave Fravor could probably tell you that story a little better than I can. But
What
when you
the
compare
fuck?
that to other things, you got to say,
Imagine being that guy hanging from that line. Yeah, but it didn't do anything to him.
no.
I would have loved that experience.
Yeah, so that was one of the anecdotes that was revealed to us by one of the
Imagine. Who's
Navy
that
helicopter
SEAL?
pilots.
Who's that guy that was hanging from that?
The frogman?
Was he a seal?
I don't know. I only know the
Bro,
pilot.
come talk to me. I want to hear that story. Oh my God. A small island.
Yep.
Black as the devil in
and
a small
round.
island and round.
Yeah, submarines look like this, right? They're not
Right,
round.
right.
So yeah, so that was one of the anecdotes that was shared with us. Obviously Puerto Rico with the other. There's been some UAPs that have been recorded off there. Everybody knows about Aguadilla, the Aguadilla incident.
I don't know about it.
Oh, I'm sure you do. You
I
don't know
do?
about the
Tell me.
Wow.
Trust me.
So you can look it up online. There's a video taken by a DHS helicopter of a very interesting object. At first, it appears to be like perhaps a balloon, but then it does all sorts of weird stuff. And as they're tracking it, it enters the water without making a splash. You can track it underwater. Then it comes up and splits into two. And it's been analyzed over and over again by a lot of experts. It's called the Aguadilla incident.
Maybe I have seen this. Is it kind of blurry looking night
There we
vision?
go. That's it.
Oh, wow.
And so keep watching that, and I'll tell you a little story about this. This is a Customs and Border Protection released this.
How fast is this thing going?
So if you look here, they're looking at this through a form of night vision. I don't know the exact velocity. All that is available. But if you keep watching this, something interesting happens. So here it goes. You're going to see this thing enter the water here. There he goes, underwater, and then it pops back up and splits into two. They're tracking it. See, no waves, no wake. And then it surfaces and then does something pretty interesting here. So keep watching.
So it's going high speed through the water.
Underwater. That's underwater. Then it breaks the surface of the water again. Keep watching. Boom, underwater, over water, boom, underwater, out of water, and then you'll see it split into two. So
I didn't see it split into two. Did you see it?
If you watch the rest of the video, there it is.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, the
Okay,
video is
there.
actually really long, but that's just one example. This is you can see all these videos. They're prevalent. They're everywhere. You see the aircraft on the bottom right. You see the UAP on top that's tracking it. No wings, no control surfaces, and it keeps up with the A-10 and does all sorts of interesting maneuvers. Right. So that's an A-10 Warthog.
And this thing's just following it.
Yep, like it's nothing.
Do you think they're trying to let people see them? Like, if you had a guess?
I don't know. I mean, could it be a demonstration of capabilities? We
Yeah.
do that, right? Every time a Russian surveillance aircraft comes by, we launch 2 F-22s and we get real close to it and say, hey,
Right.
be
but,
careful.
But not even from a military perspective. Like, if a civilization was trying to alert another civilization about its presence, wouldn't it go towards whatever military vehicles it has and show itself? And then I would imagine that if they understand human beings, they understand our psychology, and they understand that some giant size of an island, black as the devil, circular craft that lands next to the Pentagon would fucking end the world. We would freak out. No one would know what to do. That would be stock market crash, mass chaos. No one would know what to do. The way to introduce yourself, I would imagine, would be gradual over a long period of time, to allow this civilization to accept the fact these things exist, and then slowly but surely show versions of themselves.
Yeah, we call that sensitization. You sensitize a
Right.
population or environment. But, the counter argument to that is that's a very human thing, right? We have, as humans, we always, it's almost innate. We look at everything through anthropomorphic eyes. We look at, our pet dogs and we give them human names and we do things like that because we assign human value to things and because we have intentions and motivations. But most of nature isn't that way. Like, for example, when a shark bites a surfer, he's not wanting to hurt the surfer. He's just hungry. The shark's hungry. I don't care if you're a seal or whatever. I'm not trying to inflict pain. I just want to feed my belly. Intent and motivation is a very human thing, and we have to. I don't want to say resist the urge because it's almost impossible to do it, but we have to recognize that there are things that may exist that don't have human motivation. Meaning,
Right.
maybe they don't care about sensitizing us. Maybe they do, but maybe it's like a computer, right? Maybe it's binary. Maybe there's some sort of binary thought process, just information in and information out. So that's the one of the aspects I've always been very careful with is to assign human traits to something that is very likely not human.